Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne, and this is a new chapter in my book. My book is titled 71 Helpful Writing Habits You Can Learn from Self-Publishing 91 Books. This is chapter 43, called Don't Be Fooled by Thinking You Haven't Got a Valuable Voice. So this is an important subject. As a Christian person who teaches people through the writing of books and teaches people on YouTube and Facebook posts, you can be intimidated by all the credentials that professional preachers have. It took a number of years for me to become comfortable with my teaching ability and my knowledge. The majority of the Christian church leaders are trained in Bible colleges and have professional certificates and have been part of a church and been professionally endorsed by leaders of the church. So they have real credentials behind them. As a person myself who's never been to Bible college and never received formal training, it was difficult for me to have the self-esteem to be bold and to teach people with the authority that other teachers have without having my own credentials. It's important for you to have the courage to write forcefully, to write with authority on the subjects that you know, even if you haven't been classically educated in those subjects. I was brought up and schooled by the School of Hard Knocks, and I learned my lessons through living life and putting to the test the Christian faith. I learned my Christian faith through practice and living out my life with Christian principles rather than just growing up in a church and being someone who's not actively making a difference in the world. We're all here as writers to make a difference in the world, to let our message be shared and to influence people with something positive. You don't have to have the professional credentials of a psychologist to speak on matters that involve psychology. Every housewife that lives understands the psychology of children. She may not understand it as much as a child therapist or someone trained in psychology, but she understands enough to raise her own children and allow her children to grow into maturity. We all have on-the-job training. We all have an ability to acquire knowledge without any formal training. I learned to spell words and to do basic maths in school. I learned a little bit about where different countries are, although I couldn't tell you where most of the countries are in Africa. or South America, I do recognize where to look for them on a map from geography in school, but I didn't classically learn a lot from going to high school. And you will find that even though people have PhDs in subjects or master's degrees in certain subjects, you may find that they mightn't have more knowledge or more experience of the subject than yourself. There's nothing like learning on the job. And I know this is biblical, but Jesus' disciples, the people he chose to follow him and learn from him, his students as um, they were uneducated men, and he chose people that weren't the stars of the Jewish faith, but just picked them up off the streets. And you'll find in the history of Christianity, in the history of many different faiths and many different disciplines, there's a lot of unskilled, untrained, uneducated people leading the way and making good impacts on the world. So I encourage you not to be fooled into thinking that your voice doesn't count just because you haven't been classically educated.